round exhibition fight that was deemed a draw after Tyson destroyed Jones's midsection. Age ain't nothing but a number, but everyone is still talking about a former NBA star. Nate Robinson got knocked out by YouTube star Jake Paul in the second round. And when I say knocked out, I mean knocked out cold. Stephen A., what do you think was the bigger story? Was it Tyson Jones, or was it the fact that we saw Nate Robinson get KO'd?
I think it was Nate Robinson getting put to sleep. And when I say sleep, I mean sleep. I'm talking about out, not moving, completely out cold. Max, I don't know if it was smelling salts or something that they used, but he was on that canvas, I counted, for at least 2 to 3 minutes. And when he sat up, they put the stool near him, and he couldn't even gather himself together to get up on the stool. This brother was put to sleep in a way that you only see that happen to people that take Ambien. It was that bad. And you know, I'm not going to be like other people in the NBA where you know, folks were joking around. I thought he was really, really hurt. I was scared for him when he didn't move, and he got KO'd like that. And you know, it was just something sad to see. Jake Paul clearly had more experience, clearly had more skill. He was the bigger, heavier fighter on top of that. Plus, he was the better boxer. And literally, Nate came in with his face. And so I thank God he's all right. And major props to him for, you know, joining the chat room. I heard he joined the chat room and was just taking the criticism like a man. I got a lot of love for the kid. I'm not, ain't nothing to laugh about. It was scary, to be quite honest with you. And it just goes to show what Snoop Dogg and all of them was saying, because I thought Snoop Dogg was absolutely fabulous calling the fight. He said, you don't play, and you know this better than me, Max. You don't play boxing. You don't play boxing when you get in that ring. You either know what you're doing or you stay the hell out of there.
Nate is super athletic and scrappy, but a lot of people who like fight and think if they fought in the street and they had any success there, or fought in a locker room or wherever, that they're going to get in a boxing ring without being trained. No, Jake Paul had muscle memory because Jake Paul is taking his fighting seriously over the last couple of years and is really putting in the work, and it's showing. His muscle memory is just better than Nate's was, right? And so, okay, that's what happens in boxing. The biggest story was Mike Tyson and Roy Jones. That was the best version of what that fight could have been. They came in shape, Tyson especially. And the funny thing is about Roy, Stephen A., is at his best, he was a better pound-for-pound fighter than Mike, even though Mike at his best, probably the best pound-for-pound in the world too. But Roy was best pound-for-pound for almost like a decade. He was amazing. At his best, he's the best I've seen in my lifetime. But his style was based on an overwhelming speed advantage. Mike Tyson's style was based on overcoming a big height deficit and reach deficit as a heavyweight. So while Jones was considered the quote-unquote boxer in this fight, no, Jones is the athlete who needs to start feeling it, fight off a rhythm to get going. Mike is the more technical fighter, always was, and he showed it in this fight. But right around the third or fourth round, it's like, damn, Roy's got nothing for Mike. Mike is too strong. Roy even said it after the fight. You saw those body shots really hurting Roy. And I saw a look in Roy's face, and Roy is a friend of mine, like a genuine friend of mine, and I worked with him for years. And so, I'm like, Roy, don't go out like this, you know, and I don't want to see him get hurt. And Stephen A., it looked to me, he was huffing and puffing, feeling the body shots. It looked to me like Roy said, hell no, I'm not going out like this, and rejuvenated himself and made it a fight. Whether or not it was a draw, it's something else, but Roy made it competitive. He refused to just get run over. And because of that, and because no one got hurt, I was highly entertained in the end. I thought that was the best version of what that fight might have been, and I wouldn't mind seeing Mike do it again, provided you match him right. Another old guy, another small guy, not a big young guy.
Now the organization has a lot of work to do. That's an accurate statement right now, because in 3 years, what was trending to becoming a consistent winner has been torn down. What do they do next? I'd say this, Z. The first, and I think the next real move is making their decision on Matthew Stafford. And Matthew's a friend of mine, and I don't say these words lightly. I think it's time to move on from Matthew Stafford. I think that's justifiable on both parties, because the Lions are not just, hey, let's hire a coach and see if we can fix this away. Because Matthew's going into, I believe, which is going to be his 13th season, maybe his 14th season. It did not work in Detroit. And so they've got to make the decision to move on from Matthew Stafford, trade him, and build for the future, because it is now a rebuild. Because everybody that's on that football team player-wise is very much custom fit for what Matt Patricia wanted to do. So I think that's the next real decision that the Lions organization needs to make. The second thing is this. Don't fall in love with just an X's and O's guy. I know everybody wants Sean McVay. He's a unicorn. You better go find a leader, someone that has foresight, someone that understands that city, someone that understands the frustration of that city, and someone that can organize and galvanize and distribute responsibility. And the head coach has got to bring somebody that's got great X's and O's. Offensively, we are in an era of football that you need to be outstanding at it. So hire somebody that has foresight at that position. They've got to bring an offensive-minded or a great offensive-minded offensive coordinator with them. Obviously, a good defensive coordinator, but it needs to be a rebuild mode, and that's where the Lions are.
Indeed. A dozen seasons in the league. Next year will be year 13 somewhere, whether it's Detroit or elsewhere. Dan, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Great stuff, Dio.
All right, Dan.
Key, just for 1 minute, I got to get your opinion on Stafford. Also, big story percolating in Detroit. Rumors are rumors. Hey, there is a college coach in Ann Arbor that's proven himself to be a really good coach in the NFL. You can connect the dots there if you want. A lot of people in Detroit are talking about that. That may be fantasy. But would you move on from Stafford?
I probably would, because he has some value for somebody out there. And, you know, we don't need to be trying to get a top 5 pick and all that unnecessary nonsense, but get some value for him, depending on what the salary cap hit is, and then move on and rebuild the whole entire situation. Because much like Dan said, what has happened is Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn made a decision to build a team a certain way. And now the new head coach and the new front office have to come in and see what players could fit the system that they will employ now. And if Matt's part of it, then great. And if not, then we can move on from it.
Indeed. We're moving on from last place to first place in a division in a span of 3 weeks. And boy, does Key like reminding me of that. That's coming up after SportsCenter. You probably know the deal. Broncos quarterback Jeff Driscoll testing positive for the coronavirus on Thursday. His close contacts, quarterback Drew Lock, quarterback Brett Rippon, and the practice squad quarterback Blake Bortles, were put into isolation because of their close contact being in and around the quarterback room with Driscoll. As for Drew Lock, the quote-unquote franchise quarterback, he did say yesterday an honest mistake, but one I will own. I sincerely apologize, and I fully understand why these safety precautions are so important. Doing the right thing for a majority of the time is not good enough. We should add the NFL investigated and found out that when the Broncos quarterbacks were asked about whether they were wearing a mask, they were initially not forthcoming, which is another reason many people believe the league said, okay, if you're going to lie to us after the fact, you're going to play this game. If you're wondering, the Broncos can't sign another quarterback and play him on Sunday. When you sign a guy, you got to wait about 6 days to make sure they can go through all the testing. With all of that said, let's bring in Dan Orlovsky, ESPN NFL analyst, spent a dozen years under center.
Dio.
And he joins us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Dio, good morning. I just kind of set the scene there in this debacle for the Broncos. Who's to blame for all this?
The Broncos quarterbacks. This one bothers me so much, Z, because, you know, as a young backup quarterback, you pray to God for the opportunity to get on the field in the NFL. Because a lot of times for backup quarterbacks, it's about, you know, catching a lucky break. Like, you just get the opportunity to get on the field. And you don't have any idea what one game can do for your career. I mean, imagine Matt Flynn. Remember years ago, Matt Flynn got to play for the Green Bay Packers, and all of a sudden, he got a ton of money because he balled out against the Lions, and he gets a huge free agent contract from the Seattle Seahawks. You don't know what one game can do. And all the time, you're getting ready for that moment, for you just to catch your break. And now you don't get it, Brett Rippon. And now Blake Bortles, a guy that's trying to get back into the NFL, you don't get that break because you can't follow simple protocol. Like, you can't be an adult and do exactly what gets told to you by the NFL. And you did let your football team down. And you did let yourselves down because you couldn't do something that you thought wasn't that big a deal. Drew Lock, I'm supposed to give you the keys to my franchise. I'm supposed to believe that you can be a billion-dollar CEO and you can follow simple protocol. I don't care if you like it. I don't care. That's what is getting told for you to do by the people upstairs. And now you missed out on your opportunity to get on the field, Brett Rippon. And Blake Bortles trying to get back in the NFL. You missed out on your opportunity because you couldn't do that. And you can't go home now and tell your buddies or tell your girlfriend or tell your wife, I just needed a chance. I never got my chance. Yeah, you did. You had your chance. I don't care how the opportunity presented itself. You had your opportunity and you blew it because you couldn't follow simple guidelines. And that's on them. And I feel bad for the Broncos as an organization that now this brings the biggest question to mind for me when it comes to Drew Lock. How can I trust you with my franchise when I can't trust you to do things that you don't want to do? And so I feel bad for them as an organization, but that's on those players. They completely failed. Those quarterbacks completely failed their organization, and they failed